Hey everybody, this is Alex from Men Are Speaking, and today I want to talk about a tweet I saw. I kind of feel two different ways about this. I kind of feel two different ways about the entire job situation in the United States. You guys have seen from my previous videos about H-1B. I have not fully recanted my position on H-1Bs being something necessary, but I don't know exactly how it factors in. I think it's abused, first off. I think it's way abused because any system that you can abuse, you will abuse if you're Silicon Valley or anybody really for that matter. But I think it's kind of more of I think H-1B is actually kind of a stopgap to just full offshoring, which they'll eventually get to. So here we got Fugitive Caesar. He's a guy on X. As you can see, I don't even follow him. He's just popped up on my feed. 200,000 jobs destroyed a day in a weak economy. This is just offshoring to India, and President Trump needs to apply tariffs, threaten to pull government contracts, and put restrictions on digital remote work to make it stop. Okay. So in other words, what Fugitive Caesar wants is he wants more proactive measures from the government to protect American workers from the global what essentially is the global economy, right? He wants to remove the globalism from the global economy because Silicon Valley is a fairly global enterprise, I think. It is physically located in San Francisco, but these people are kind of nowhere. They're nowhere people, right? Some may call them bugmen. I don't call them bugmen. I call them essentially they're kind of citizens of the world is probably how they describe themselves. Anyways, this sort of heavy-handed approach to restoring jobs in the United States might be necessary. It also feels a little bit like an FDR kind of thing to do, right? Where you're starting to fly in the face of all economic value. And here's where I want to talk about today is what is the economic value of tech workers? What is their economic value? Because let me tell you something. Back in the days of cheap credit, remember that like 5 years ago? There were startups like crazy because interest was extremely low and the interest rates were extremely low. So money was essentially free. Okay. So if I'm a VC, what I could do as a VC venture capitalist, my job is to invest in companies and get a return on that investment. I'm hoping to get a unicorn. I want a Waze. I want an Uber. I want one of those, right? I want the real big stuff. Okay. So what I do is I invest in like 10 different companies. Okay. And of those 10 companies, I only need one to be successful. I only need one to be a unicorn. So what happens, and that's under the free money economy, right? So what happens when you get rid of the free money? You had 10 projects being funded before, 10 sets of employees, 10 companies. And now if money is no longer free, even having a 50% success rate is not necessarily enough, right? Because everyone is now looking for the unicorn. Everyone's using their discernment. They're using their pattern recognition. People aren't just throwing the dice anymore. What I'm saying, though, is that there used to be 10 companies funded. Now there's like one company funded, okay? So you have there a 10x decrease in the workforce just because of the interest rate change. All right? That's one factor, okay? You're going to have and these are numbers I'm making up, but they're notionally true. You have way fewer projects, startups, whatever, being funded by VCs because money is no longer free. And the next point I'm going to make is that tech is not longer that valuable, okay? This is kind of right now everyone's very excited by AI because AI is the one innovation that's going on right now. But imagine all the innovations that happened before. Like when I was young, we didn't have Google Maps with traffic on it, right? We didn't have shared like Google Documents, notebooks, stuff. All this stuff that makes, and these things are useful, but they don't actually make money. So what makes money? Okay, so this is everything culminates in eventually something making some money, right? Well, all the stuff that makes like Amazon money is their web services, which right now are kind of shoddy. They're going down. They're a target for attack. It's a different subject for a different time, but Google makes its money off of ads. All right, so you have an ad company masquerading as an information systems company, and you have a workplace, like a sales marketplace, that is really actually a data company, right? It's actually an information company. So these companies are finding out where their bread is buttered, and they're not really wanting to branch out. They don't want to make new projects, and they haven't wanted to make new projects internally for a long time. They've actually been outsourcing all of their R&D to the startups, which are no longer being funded. So if they want to make money, they just buy a startup. They don't usually have internal teams that create stuff. So what happens when all of your money is being made by technology that's like a decade old and is just being maintained, right? What happens when you no longer want to take the massive risks because you no longer have the free money? Well, all of Silicon Valley is essentially shrinking. What I'm saying is there's been a massive wage bubble in tech that's been going on for about 10 years. Like back in the days of, oh, I'm a code monkey, I just make code all day. You know, oh, look at my, what do you call them? The stupid toys people have, whatever, the vinyl figurines. Right? Look at all my vinyl figurines. I got my desk candy. Look how crazy I am. I got my D&D campaign. I'm effing off on Twitter during work hours, right? Those days are kind of gone. The real value of a tech worker is being realized. And the thing is, the tech workers are themselves not that valuable because everyone wants creativity. Now, the thing is, nobody wants to hire you if you're not creative because now we have AI. And AI is starting to do the low-level code. And it's only going to get better and better and better as it goes through the company's code base and can actually apply code standards and spit out code that then just needs to be tested. So instead of having software developers, you have test engineers and you have AI prompt managers, like AI supervisors. Well, you've cut your workforce down internally a whole lot. You've cut your workforce down externally by no longer having all these startups. And the people who are truly creative are still making startups, and they'll always be valuable, right? These are the people who can go and make their own money and make their own jobs are the unicorns. They are the intellectual elite that Silicon Valley is founded by. I think we've had a massive bubble in Silicon Valley of people that are not necessarily Silicon Valley material long-term, right? And now it's time to start cutting stuff back. So you end up getting here, as Fugitive Caesar complains about, 200,000 jobs destroyed in one day. Let me say something. Like, NVIDIA, I guess, is pretty much a crypto mining company now because people don't care about games graphics that much. Like, okay, whoop-de-doo. People are playing older video games by and large. Okay, so the video games industry is collapsing because people want to play old games. I don't need to play like Crysis 10 or something like that or whatever bullshit tech demo is coming out. I can just play Stardew Valley and be even happier, okay? I don't need to mine crypto because crypto is a volatile asset and it's just sort of done to death, okay? Some people are going to still mine it, whatever, that's fine. That's where NVIDIA is going to get its money from. AI is also where it's going to get its money from. So you're replacing humans with NVIDIA driven AI. Okay, that's all right, that works. But the thing is, this comes at the defeat of having workers. Unless you're an AI developer or an AI chip developer, right? And that's a hyper elite position. Like that's a PhD in both probably, I don't know, some AI computer science type function, as well as the electrical engineering for the chips. Right? You have to be a major polymath to be doing this sort of stuff. And you don't need that many of those people. You might need like a few in a company. Like NVIDIA might only need a handful of those people. Yeah, the tech bubble is bursting and it's hitting the workforce because it's not a tech bubble as in the tech is less valuable. It's the tech bubble as in the jobs are just no longer necessary. Silicon Valley is going into maintenance mode, okay? Which is great if you're a test engineer. But it's going into maintenance mode. It doesn't need all these people. It no longer requires all this creativity because there's nothing to create. We filled the logistics curve. The Petri dish is now completely overrun with the tech that is 10 years old and will continue to be. And there's no reason to develop anything new because it'll A, probably fail, B, if it was going to succeed, it would be in a startup, right? First off, people want to have a creative job in tech. If you can't create a startup, what you're telling I don't necessarily agree with this, but I think it's a true, there's some truth to the perspective, is that if you're unable to make a startup and make money, and you're not willing to even try, what you're telling to the tech company is that you wouldn't even hire yourself, right? If I'm a worker, I should be able to create money essentially out of thin air with my creativity. That's what creativity is, it's creating, okay? Now, if your creativity doesn't actually make any money, enough for you to even hire yourself and do stuff on your own, now, and this is what the untruth about this is that like sometimes we need infrastructure, but the thing about software engineering is you don't really need that much infrastructure. Like a dude with a laptop that has a GPU in it is probably just as capable as a professional laptop, right? Like there's no magic. The magic's supposed to be in here. Well, if the magic's not in here, then why the hell are they hiring you? So, and Silicon Valley is very cutthroat. And they're going to think like this. They're going to assume, and I know how they think because I'm tangential to them and I'm kind of one of them, is that they think very much in terms of like, do you have value or not? I was like, well, if you can't cut it, then get out, right? We're just going to lay you off. It is what it is, right? We'll do what we need to do when we need to do it. But the thing is, we don't need new tech. The new tech doesn't make the money. I don't want another Uber, okay? I don't want any more unicorns. And here's the thing. Guys like Fugitive Caesar, like the right-wing guys on X, will say this. They will say, oh, look, all these jobs that are being lost. And then at the same time, they will say, well, what technology has actually made our lives better in the last 15 years? Technology should have just stopped at and then pick your year of nostalgia. If it's 1996 or 2006 or even 2016. Yeah, pick your year, all right? And that's where they want technology to stop. And there's some truth to that, is that technology hasn't really made our lives that much better. I think the biggest technological innovation of my lifetime has been Google Maps, and it's like live navigation with traffic. That was amazing. That's great if you're commuting. But other than that, I'd send emails. Video calling is pretty cool, but we had video calling back when I was a kid. We used to crank call people in Turkey using Skype back in those days. It wasn't video calling, it was just calling phones. But honestly, most people turn their cameras off when they call anyway, when they're on a video call. Like, who the hell wants to have their camera on? Unless they're a sales guy. Anyways, yeah, technology is just not the relevant industry that it used to be. And these guys are, as Alex Cosmo would say, they are blue-collar workers now. Blue-collar workers means it's a discipline, it is a skill, but it is not a creative endeavor, right? You're no longer creating. You're now just meeting a demand. Well, then where's the demand? Demand is effing low because people don't actually find technology to be a great part of their lives. Most people are trying to remove technology from their lives, okay? So this entire bubble, this entire tech sector thing is actually kind of effed. And this is why I say H-1Bs are a stopgap, because they are just a cheaper way of trying to help maintain the decline. And eventually the end goal, I think, is to offshore it. And once they significantly offshore, then there is no reversing globalism. Now we are dependent on another country for our information systems. So if Amazon Web Services just picked up and went to India tomorrow, which they could, maybe not tomorrow, but they could. Well, that means that the United States, for all of its online cognitive ability, has to go to India. And now India owns all of our data centers because everybody runs on Amazon Web Services, as we saw like last Monday when it went down. Yeah. Listen, ever since the days of the Dutch East India Trading Company, the merchants have pretty much ran the world, and they're going to continue to run the world because the warrior failed. The warrior failed because I can put 10 muskets in the hands of peasants in a summer and train them up on it, whereas it takes a lifetime to make a longbowman. Okay, that's why the warrior class failed, because it's hyper specialized. And it's not so up to trade openness. It's also not really a meritocracy. There's no second place when you're a warrior. Second place is you're dead. It's not the best. The priest class of the world are kind of failing as well after the Enlightenment, right? So you're left with the merchants, and the merchants, they're not so bad. However, you have to propose value. Okay, if you want to be a patriot, all right, we all want to be patriots. I think I'm a patriot. I enlisted in the United States Marine Corps. I got medically rejected, but I put my name on the line and had a date to go to Paris Island, and they just called me up like a week before I was supposed to go, and they said, yeah, that asthma thing's not cool. We thought it might be cool, but we talked it over. It's not cool. That's fine. I didn't go to the Marines. That's okay. I don't need to go to the Marines. I just need to give my life over to them and let them decide, give it to God and the Marine Corps. If you want to be a patriot, you need to get properly creative with technology, or you need to start working on other infrastructure stuff that can't be outsourced, okay? You don't have to be a plumber. You don't have to be like some house electrician either. You could work on like high voltage stuff. You could be an electrical engineer, right? But if you want a tech job, software is not where it's at. Like their unemployment rate of software engineers is actually higher than that of just high school dropouts or high school graduates with no college experience. Yeah, the bubble's gone. It's over, guys. The tech job stuff is kind of over. No one has any demand for it. We actually want less technology. The creativity part of it's gone. It's just maintenance now, so it's become a blue collar job, which means it's going to get blue collar wages. Like the H-1B stuff. Let's just take all the nepotism out, right? Like take all the ethnic favoritism that you get with Indians out, right? Like, by the way, God bless them. I don't mind it that much. It is what it is. Like, maybe other ethnicities should learn to be as nepotistic. It's anti-meritocratic, right? We like meritocracy. Let's say we like meritocracy, okay? Well, in a meritocracy, the value you give to a company has to be greater than what they pay you, and by a large margin, okay? Because usually their expense, what you cost the company is usually twice your wages, roughly speaking. So you have to deliver twice of your wages worth of value to the company. Well, the thing is, if they're willing to take an H1, like an H1B over you, and just forget the nepotism part, what the company is saying is we either no longer need this level of expertise or this level of professionality or whatever, this level of quality. So we're going to downgrade, right? We're going to go from the Snap-on wrench to just the DeWalt brand wrench. Maybe we'll even go down to like the Walmart brand. I don't even know what their brand of wrench is, but let's say we're going to go down to a Craftsman wrench, okay, which is a pretty good wrench, but it's a very cheap wrench, okay? We don't need the Snap-ons anymore. Those are like $630 for a set of like 10 metric ones or something like that. Well, there's also the fact that it's like maybe this name brand American worker just isn't worth the money either, right? Like the cost. So that's the scale, right? What I just discussed was a scale. We're going to scale back. There might also be a value proposition of like, well, every dollar I pay this Indian guy gets me $2.50 of return. Whereas every dollar I pay the American, I get just 2 over return, right? Which is good, but it's not as good. Now, I don't think that's the case. I think the case is that companies are trying to scale back. As I said, there's less demand for tech. There's a lot less creativity in tech. Maintenance has now become more of a issue than anything else, right? People are just trying to maintain. And a lot of stuff, and the money is no longer cheap. So no one wants to pay for failed projects anymore. And finally, that things are just scaling back in general. These jobs are gone. These jobs are gone. It just is what it is. That 200,000 jobs is gone. They may never need to come back. I mean, not everyone has to work in like AI vision for drone warfare. I mean, how many engineers do you actually need for that, for God's sakes? I think we just trained way too many software engineers. And I don't have a solution to that. I mean, other than retrain, which is, it's a painful solution, but it's a solution nonetheless. And it's probably the best solution you're ever going to have. Get into something that can't be outsourced, because if you're in an information space, you do compete against the entire world. Okay, there's another thing I see on X. I'm going to close with this. You see on X, a lot of people saying like, well, I shouldn't have to compete against the entire world. I was like, well, then don't pick a global career. Software engineering is a global career. I can outsource it immediately. I could physically get on my laptop and fly out to some other place. Like I could go to Tahiti and live. If it's a laptop job, then it's a global job. All right. Unless there's a pressing need for you to be at a physical location, then you have a global job and you are going to have to compete against the entire world. Sorry. Why'd you pick a global job? You do have to compete against the entire, the US government is going to try its best to protect its citizens, but it cannot stop global market forces. What's my point? Is like the merchants have been in charge. They're going to be in charge. You cannot force Intel to pay $1 and only get 80 cents back from its wages. You can't force companies to take a loss. They will eventually screw out from under you. Essentially what you're doing is almost like I'm going to close with this. This is almost leftist. This is almost leftist style finger on the scale. Sometimes you need that, right? But like, did FDR actually help or not? I don't think he helped the Great Depression. I'm not saying it's the wrong thing to do, but just be very careful. And I don't think people are being very careful. I think people are being very panicky, very unemployed, and very stupid. If I was unemployed, I'd probably get panicky and stupid too. But I'm not, so maybe listen to me. Like, it's over, man. It's over. Go do something else. Do something with your hands. Hands and heads. Do something creative. I don't know, make stoneware or something. There's plenty of money out there. It's just not going to come from this IT stuff, because what once allowed you to dominate the globe with your degree and your expertise is now going to allow you to be dominated. It's just the ripple effect. It went out before, now it's coming back in. We stared into the globe, and now the globe is staring back. You picked a global job, and you get to compete against the globe. There's only so much Donald Trump can do and should do. All right. Thanks. Like, comment, subscribe, do all that stuff. Appreciate you guys. Do better, do well. God bless.